Hello to all our dear students. Welcome to the Bajirao IS Academy. Before starting our editorial discussion, let's play a game of interaction. And in this game, you have been posted as an IS officer of your home district. Okay. And you have been given a duty that please identify the top 10 most important challenges of your district. And the challenges can be the political, the challenges can be economic, the challenges can be the social as well. Okay, so identify the top 10 most important challenge. And let's say you have identified the top 10 most challenges. From these challenges, the top most challenge, that is the challenge number one. Okay, the extreme challenge the district is facing. So how will you be dealing with the top most challenge? So try to tell me in the comment box, in the chat box. Now, why I am initiating this type of concept, this type of interaction, so that you become an active learner from the passive learner. In the passive learner, you only listens. And in the active learning, you also interact and you also think and you also provide the solution. Okay. And you should provide the solution, but before that you have to think about the problem, because thinking about the problem will ultimately divert your mind to be in a solving mode, and you will be finding creative solutions. Okay, maybe some district can be facing the issue of water crisis, some district can be facing the issue of transportation and connectivity. Okay, so the challenges can be different. Okay, and therefore the solution can be unique. And one important outcome of this type of interaction will be that some of the innovative solution can be coming in the chat box, and you can also see, listen, observe, and also adopt to the solution. And this will be helping to your case study as well, in the debate and discussion mode as well. So this will enhance your personality. So that's a very important thing. And so that I have inserted this type of interactive session for you. Okay, so now we are starting with the editorial discussion. Hello and welcome you all. Welcome to the Bajirao IS Academy. Today is 16th November and we will be going to the discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. Okay, and today we have three articles in discussion. So the first article is related to the reforms in our justice system. When we talk about reforms in our justice system, it is related to the elimination of death penalty. What this article says, that in the coming times we are seeing that Indian Penal Code will be replaced by Nyaya Samhita bill. Okay, so in this bill also there is a provision of death penalty. It has not been removed. Okay, so the article says please remove it, because at the global level the death penalty or the capital punishment is getting reduced, and also there are other arguments against the death penalty. Okay, so we will be elaborating on this. And the second article is related to the price of persistent federal price of persistent federal frictions. So what in this article says, that we have the federal polity. And when we talk about federal polity, what does it mean? The devolution of power between center and the states. Okay, so here, because of the federal nature, we see the conflicting issue between center and the states. Okay, so this has an economic impact. Okay, so we will be elaborating that what the economic consequence of these federal frictions occurs and how we can resolve it. Okay, and the third article is related to the Uttarkasi tunnel collapse. And when we talk about this tunnel collapse, it is not the first time that this is happening. In fact, in 2019 the same incident in the same location occurred. Okay, so here we will be analyzing what are the causing factor of the tunnel collapse. Here we will be elaborating the geographical factor. Okay, and because this type of article comes under the geography section, and maybe UPSC can ask about the causing factor of these tunnel collapse. Okay, so we will be elaborating in detail. And here you will be learning about different dimensions of rocks, okay, along with the other causing factors like the land subsidence due to the earthquake, okay. So we will be elaborating that. Now let us shift to our article discussion. The first article related to GS paper 2, okay. But before that, we on the daily basis try to solve the UPSC prelims paper. And here the question is related to the economy section. Yesterday we have asked you about the polity section, but today it is based on the economy section. So read the question carefully and kindly answer in the comment box. Okay. So the question is, in India, which of the following is responsible for maintaining price stability by controlling inflation? Option A, Department of Consumer Affairs. Option B, Expenditure Management Commission. Option C, Financial Stability and Development Council. And option D, Reserve Bank of India. Here, when we talk about inflation, what do you mean by inflation? General rise in the price of a commodity or a services. Okay. And if there is a rise in the prices, that means the product will become more expensive. And that's why many people will not be able to buy or purchase that product. Okay. And especially the poorer sections, the vulnerable sections. For example, let's compare a situation when the price of milk per liter becomes 100 rupees. Okay. So who will not going to consume the milk? The poorer section, because they have less money, and that's why investing 100 rupees in the milk per liter will be more expensive for them, and that's why they can face malnutrition, and this can also lead to the health crisis to the poorer section. So how inflation affects the vulnerable section, the poorer section, you can analyze from this question as well. Okay. So that's why the government or the RBI try to manage the inflation. But here in this question, it has been asked about the institution which is primarily responsible for maintaining the price stability. So you have to give the answer, although I have given you the hint. Okay. And the answer of this question will be discussed in the last session of our discussion. Okay. So be continue with us. And if you are liking our initiative, please do like, share, subscribe, and also spread to your friend circle. So thank you, and let's start our discussion. Okay. And the first article is related to GS paper 2. So first of all, when we talk about the death penalty, okay. So in India, we do have a provision of death penalty in the Indian Penal Code. And also the Supreme Court or the High Court can give the capital punishment. The capital punishment or death penalty is the same keyword means for the death penalty. Okay. So basically it is a very contentious issue in India, whether it should be kept in India or whether it should be withdrawn from India remain a debatable issue. Okay. But this article talks about the removal of the death penalty from the new upcoming bill, that is Bharatiya Nyay Samhita bill. Okay. And when we talk about Bharatiya Nyay Samhita bill, basically it will replace the Indian Penal Code. And even this new bill does not recommend the abolition of the death penalty. Okay. And when we talk about the bill which was recommended for a standing committee on home affairs, even their recommendations when arrived, they suggested that the matter of death penalty should be left for the government to consider. That means this standing committee is also silent about elimination of death penalty from this new Bharatiya Nyay Samhita bill. Okay. And when we talk about the arguments against the death penalty, so basically there are series of arguments which you can substantiate for your answer writing. First of all, there is an increased instances of trial courts that are awarding death sentence in India. But when we talk about the higher judiciary, specifically the Supreme Court, there is a statistical trend that indicates that the Supreme Court is moving away from the capital punishment. Remember, the higher court, that is the Supreme Court, is moving away from giving the capital punishment, but the trial court or the lower court awarding the death sentence. So here there is a disagreeing consensus between the Supreme Court and various trial court. Okay. And when we talk about another argument, that is the social scientists, okay, that do research with respect to the social evil and the problems. So basically, they also analyze that even if we allocate death penalty in a law, that does not create the deterrence. Okay, and why we try to enact death penalty, you need to understand the purpose to create a deterrence so that another person should not do any heinous crime. Okay, and in fear of the punishment, they should avoid doing the crime. But the analysis shows that the result is ineffective. Okay, and along with other arguments are like favorable global opinion about removal of capital punishment. Okay, like various Western judiciary and parliament, they have eliminated capital punishment. Okay, and when we talk about the Supreme Court's stance on the death penalty, so you can understand that even Supreme Court is not giving death penalty even in the case where death penalty provision are there. Like from 2007 to 2022, the Supreme Court awarded the death penalty to only 7 individuals. And in 2023, the Supreme Court commuted all death sentence to life imprisonment. Why? Because it was not coming under the rarest of rare case. Why in India we give death penalty? Because if any crime comes under rarest of the rare case, that means it will be awarded the death sentence. Okay, so here Supreme Court stance on death penalty is clear that they does not focus too much on the death penalty, and that's why there is a suggestion to remove the death penalty from India in this article. Okay, and also when the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs, okay, they analyzed the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita bill, some of the members also given their dissent notes that why death penalty should be abolished. First, that the death penalty has no proven deterrent effect. Along with when you give death penalty, there is a no choice for reform. But when you give a lifetime imprisonment, so it may be a more severe punishment, and it also offers opportunity for rehabilitation. Okay, maybe some person can regret after doing the crime. Okay, and if chances are given, they can reform themselves. Okay, this is the scenario. Okay, and another important thing that most individual on the death case, they comes from the underprivileged background. And when we talk about underprivileged background, so they have a family. Okay, maybe their family is facing the economic burden or the social burden, so the death penalty of the bread earner can increase their problems as well. So there is a proposed alternative that life imprisonment should be there as an alternative to the capital punishment. Okay, and when we talk about remission, first of all, you need to understand remission. When we talk about remission, that means it is the mechanism via which the punishment or the sentence gets reduced or shortened, but it is done by either governor or the president. Okay, maybe let's say a person has been given the death sentence, so via remission it can come to the life imprisonment, or the life imprisonment can shrink to 5 year or 6 year of jail. So that is the remission, and the power of remission lies with the governor or the president. Okay, under Article 72 that deals with the governor pardoning power, or under Article 161 that deals with the pardoning power of governor. Okay, but when we talk about remission, it is not a right but a privilege, and the person cannot treat as a fundamental right, first of all. Okay, and it is granted on the basis of good behavior, remorse, and other factors. But the decision to grant remission is discretionary. Okay, it will depend on the decision of the president or the governor that they want to give remission or not. So that's the point. And when we talk about the current issue around remission, then we are seeing that the remission is being used as a political controversy. Maybe one political party member, let's say, they have been convicted for a serious crime. Okay, so their sentence can be reduced based on remission if political party has association with it. Okay, and that is the point the article is highlighting, and they are suggesting that the remission should not be based on political controversy but based on humanitarian act, and that's why rational and universal remission policy is needed. Okay, so we have discussed the article 1 and hope you understood the basic context, the basic idea of this article. Now we are shifting to the second article, and it is related to the federal friction. Okay, and when we talk about the federal friction, why there is a rise of federal friction? Because we have the federal polity, and in federal polity we have the center, okay, we have the state, and the devolution of power is given by the constitution between the center and the state. That's why we have the subject list that are based on the center, that are also given to the state, where state can make laws, okay, where center can make laws. Okay, but we have the unitary biasness. That means there are certain important functions that are under the control of center, and even in case of emergency the center can dominate the overall state. So that is also called as quasi federal polity. Okay, and that's why, because of these nature, the disputes between center and the state regarding the economic policy has a long history. Okay, but in the recent year we are seeing that the dispute regarding the policy has a persistent frictions. And when we talk about economic policy, let's say center makes their own economic policy, a state government makes their own economic policy, but if there is a less coordination, this will lead to inefficiency in the implementation of the policy. Okay, and can you give me the example? You can take a numerous example like the a state sponsored schemes. Okay, we talk as centrally sponsored scheme where the center also contributes fund, the state also contributes fund, but sometimes if there is a friction between the state and the center, the fund can be stopped from the center. Okay, and what we see in the case of Manrega, you can also observe about the Manrega scheme, it is also a centrally sponsored scheme, but if there is a friction between the state and the center, the fund from the center can be stopped. Okay, and this can lead to the crisis to the vulnerable section, to the workers, and these are the policy paralysis, scheme paralysis. So that is an important thing. Okay, and when we talk about its impact on economy, so it has numerous and deep impact. First of all, when we talk about 1991 reforms, and before that, so before 1991 reform, there was much more restrictions on the state regarding the investment, regarding the autonomy. But after LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization, the autonomy little bit increased, and a state was given much more freedom regarding the investment. But what is another important thing to note, that in case of the revenue, there is not much more control on the state. Why? Because if we observe the taxation and non-taxation income of the state, there is very much less. And that's why we have the finance commission that distributes the net proceeds of the tax between the center and the state. That means the finance control lies with the center. Okay, so you can understand that autonomy regarding public expenditure policy is not absolute because of the fiscal dependency on the center. Okay, and that's why if there is increase in center state disputes, that can lead to diversion from cooperative federalism. Okay, so you need to understand about cooperative federalism, that here the center and the state as well as different state try to cooperate to achieve the common objective of development, prosperity, growth. Okay, all of that. But here, if there is lack of cooperative federalism, that means all these developmental factors will be going to be impacted. Okay, and when we talk about areas of conflict, so there are numerous areas of conflict like the resource sharing, like some state get more resource in terms of the taxation income, in terms of the scheme allocation funds. Okay, along with there is a challenge of homogenization of social sector policy. What do you mean by homogenization? It means let's say central government brings some scheme. Okay, so the scheme will be implemented all over the state, and that means the a state which aims to create a new scheme will not have there much more say. Okay, and along with the functioning of the regulatory institution, the power of the central agency, these all are more centralized towards the center. Okay, so that's why we see every time in the news about the case of enforcement directorate issue or the CBI issue. Okay, all of that can come under this category. And when we talk about, let's say, if the central government has an upper hand, like in case of India, we see various scenario like this. So there are three important economic consequences. First, the center starts crowding out the state in terms of investment. What do you mean by crowding out? In crowding out, what happens, like the union government try to do much more investment. Okay, and this reduces the possibility of the state to invest in various projects, and because of that there can be the under investment in certain state. For example, let's say the state where similar or the same political party is ruling, whether it is the center or it is the state, so the investment in these state may come. But when we talk about a different political party ruling in the state and the center, so there can be the curve on investment. Okay, so these scenario can arise as well. And there is an example like recently launched PM Gati Sakti scheme, which is a digital platform, and what it does, like it incorporates schemes of various ministry of the central government and the state government to achieve integrated planning and coordinated implementation of infrastructure connectivity project. But here the central government has created national Gati Shakti master plan and also directed the state to create a state Gati Shakti master plan. But the direction given by the center to the state on creation of the master plan is based on the framework which has been already decided by the center. Okay, so here the state does not have much more autonomy. And apart from that, when we talk about a spending in terms of connectivity and road infrastructure, the spending has been more concentrated within the three largest states of Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. That means other states are lacking in terms of investment, in terms of the infrastructure development, in terms of the connectivity. Okay, and this leads to under investment by the state. So that is the impact. First impact we have seen, and when we talk about the second impact, it is basically a start of competition between center and the state. Although when we talk about the federal system, the competition is a common phenomena between the state because every state want to rise than other. Okay, but when the competition comes between center and the state, there is chances that center will win and the state will lose. Okay, and that is happening in the current scenario as well. And we can take an example of welfare provisioning, like there are many much social sector schemes that are launched by the central government. Okay, and they are mostly centrally sponsored scheme, and the fund is distributed between the center and the state, whether it is 60-40 ratio or 90:10. Okay, so here we can understand that, let's say if the central government and the state government has different ruling party, so what will happen? Maybe the centrally sponsored scheme or the central sector scheme where the total fund allocation is done by the central government will not receive much more focus, and that state will remain backward. Okay, so that's important thing to understand. And another problem that can rise is about the inefficiency associated with the parallel policy. So a state has an autonomy that it can create their social policy, and also the central government has an autonomy that they can also create similar type of policy. But let's say in a state, the state is creating a policy on education, the central government is also creating a scheme on education, so there can be the parallel scheme in the state, and there can be a scenario that both these schemes will become inefficient because a state will not cooperate with the implementation of the central scheme, and even the center will not take care of the state scheme. Okay, so it leads to inefficiency, damage of funds. Okay, that means duplicating of the policies. And we have an example like the national pension scheme, which once upon a time was funded solely by the government of India. Okay, but now it has become a contribution based scheme where the employer and the government will also co-contribute. Okay, but now what we are seeing that some states have started to roll back to the old pension scheme. That means that state will totally contribute the fund from their exchequer. So it can lead to increase in fiscal burden of the state, and that can increase the inefficiency in that state. Okay, and why we are seeing all of this? Because of lack of coordination between the center and the state. There is a trust deficit in our federal system, and all these trust deficit is leading to the problem that we are seeing. Okay, and it also leads to increased fiscal cost. So what is the solution? The solution talks about inevitable interdependence we have. Like in federal system, you cannot be separate, you cannot become autonomous. There is a need of interdependence in federal polity, whether between the state or the center. So this interdependence must be maintained, must be preserved. Then only the solution and cooperation will become a reality. Okay, so that's the point. And now we are shifting to the last article, and it is related to the Uttarakhand tunnel collapse. You know that on 12th November, when we all were celebrating Diwali, but on Uttarakhand state, what happened? Like the tunnel collapse. And this is not the first scenario we are seeing. Earlier in 2019, the same region, the same location in the same tunnel, there was a collapse. Okay, and again we have seen this collapse. And because of this collapse of the tunnel, about 40 people has been stuck in that tunnel, and rehabilitation and extraction work is going on, but still no success has been achieved. Okay, so what I am trying to tell you that these regions are very much environmentally sensitive region, and any disturbance caused by the human activity can lead to disastrous impact. And remember, we have seen the incident of land subsidence in Uttarakhand. Okay, why we forget all of these? So these indicate that human presence and human activity are penetrating much more, and they are impacting much more, and we are seeing the result as well. Okay, so we will be understanding the causes of the tunnel collapse. First of all, it is the soft rock. And when we talk about soft rock, that means they are weaker rocks as compared to the hard rock. Hard rock are very much stronger. Okay, like the peninsular rock system, they are hard rock, but the Himalayan mountain system, they have weak unconsolidated rock. That's why any disturbances, any vibration issue, it comes into the rock system, there is a chances of collapse. That's why in case of heavy rainfall, heavy flooding, there is a landslide. Okay, and the second factor which are being referred is water seepage. The tunnel where it was being created, side by side there was water seepage. Okay, and the water seepage weakens the rock. Okay, anything which gets inserted, which gets under the presence of water, they becomes weak. Okay, and that's why the rocks around the tunnel was becoming weak, and that's why the pressure which was exerted from the overlying rock was not able to sustain it, and it collapsed. And the third is about blasting. To create tunnel or to create infrastructure in the rocky area or the mountainous region, the officials or the workers need to do blasting. Okay, and the blasting can be done by dynamite, and because of the blasting, the vibrations created, the energy and the vibrations created to disturb the neighboring rocks, and this may be the another cause. Okay, and when we talk about the last cause, that is the land subsidence, and why there is chances of land subsidence in this region, it is all because these regions are earthquake prone zone. Okay, and a small frequency earthquake or more heavy frequency earthquake can arrive here, and in recent times we are seeing earthquake which is coming more frequently. Okay, so maybe these seismic waves can have affected the rock structure, the rock balance of these tunnel, and that's why the collapse happened. So these were the four factors as suggested by the expert. However, investigation is going on, and in the coming times we will understand what were other causes. But majority of the causes can be related with this. And remember that Himalayan region is very sensitive zone, and if any human activities gets done, whether it is the infrastructure creation, okay, whether it is any developmental projects like the tourism, etc., so there can be have a profound impact on the ecosystem. So that's the end of the article. Hope you understood. And the question of today's answer today, the answer of the today's question is RBI, because RBI has been given the primary duty to control inflation. Okay, and tell me, when was RBI given this duty? Because before that year, the RBI's duty was multiple in nature. But after that year, the duty of the RBI was restricted to control inflation. Okay, apart from other duty, but major duty was given to control inflation. That's why you can observe about the bi-monthly policy of the RBI and their meetings, and they try to increase or decrease the repo rate to control inflation and all of that. Okay, so we have discussed all of the article. Hope you understood. We will discuss another article in the next session of the discussion. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. If you liked our initiative, please do like, share, subscribe. Thank you. We will meet again in the next session. Thank you. And please try to give answer of the case study that we have asked in the top important questions. Thank you.